Steve Slaton. What a great story if you don't already know it.
Slaton makes a man miss, heads down the sidelines, shows the speed, and scores!
Boy, a little over 12 months ago at this time, he was the number 4 guy on the depth chart. Right now, the number 2 rusher in the country.
Slaton off and running again, gets a block, gets the corner!
5 games into the season against Virginia Tech, he enters the picture, and it was over after that.
Lunges for the end zone, he is in! Touchdown, Steve Slaton, he did it again! Slaton scores his 6th touchdown.
Slaton's second 52-yard touchdown run.
He's got 149 yards. We're not even through the first quarter and a couple of scores.
Slaton, nice dip in, turns the corner, he had nothing. He made something out of it. Big game by Steve Slaton. He just makes people look foolish.
If it's not Slaton, it's Patrick White.
Dadgum Slaton and White.
Watch for Slaton and watch for White. Those two guys, those two freshmen, are dynamite.
How fast are you, by the way?
I'm gonna say around a high 4.2 guy.
High 4.2 40.
Slaton, sideline, maybe one man, not gonna get him. Touchdown, West Virginia.
This is what Steve Slaton can do. Slaton, touchdown.
Look, he got the ball in Steve's hands. He made the rest happen. He's fast, though. His speed is amazing.
And here's a young man, a 3rd-round pick out of West Virginia, that's really starting to find himself.
Here's the handoff. Slaton picks up the first down. Slaton, stiff arm, down the sideline, foot race. The rookie heading into the end zone. Touchdown, Houston.
This kid is terrific.
Well, he's had fumble issues. Quite frankly, the coaching staff did lose confidence in Steve Slaton.
It's the right wrist that continues to be the problem for Steve Slaton.
He keeps fighting through it, and eventually it did cost him.
Let's jog your memory. The state of Pennsylvania has produced a lot of football talent. Coming out of Levittown in the mid-2000s, Steve Slaton was one of its finest. His childhood was anything but easy. An ear issue forced him to read lips until the 1st grade. As a 5th grader, he lost his older sister to leukemia. During this time, he found a love in football. He attended Conwell-Egan High School and made varsity as a freshman. In his 2nd game, he broke the school's rushing record. Steve Slaton was a star in the making. He kept improving, and by his senior year, the football star who doubled as a track star was one of the most coveted prospects in the state. He rushed for over 1,800 yards, a single-season school record. Yet while Slaton was most at home as a running back, he was probably an even better cornerback, one of the best in the nation, and a lot of schools that were recruiting him were looking to add him to their defense. He ended up committing to West Virginia. A big reason was because they promised to give him a real look on offense. They'd be doing themselves a disservice if they didn't. They told him they were looking for speed, and Slaton ran a 4.3 40. Slaton arrived in Morgantown. He got his look on offense. When the season started, the freshman was listed as a running back, but he was low on the depth chart. The freshman everyone wanted to see was Jason Gwaltney. However, his career didn't go as planned. As for Slaton, he saw garbage time action in just one of their first 4 games. Then a 3rd-ranked Virginia Tech team came to town. Slaton got a chance. He rushed for 90 yards and did so on just 11 carries. The next week they played Rutgers, and Slaton got the start.
They give it to Slaton, got running to the edge. He's at the 5. He's in. Touchdown, Mountaineers. And he's going to give it to Slaton. He got the edge, turned the corner. First down, West Virginia. He's knocked out of bounds at the 25-yard line. Ryan Geralt knocks him out of bounds. But Slaton putting up some numbers here.
139 yards on 25 carries. A star was born, but no one expected what was coming the next week.
It's a beautiful day to play football in our house. In our house. They want to have a 7-on-7 drill. We want to make it a fist fight. Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. Right? West Virginia football.
Louisville were the heavy favorites, and it was going as expected. The Cards were up 17-0 at halftime. Then Slaton turned it on.
Handoff goes to Slaton. He finds the seam. There he goes. 40, 35 to the sideline, 30 down the sideline, 25.
As you and I talk, Tony, this is exactly the way great comebacks start.
He put the Mountaineers on the board early in the 3rd.
Quick pass left side, flat caught by Slaton. Here he comes to the 10, to the 5, end zone, touchdown, West Virginia, Steve Slaton.
But still, West Virginia began the 4th trailing by 17. Slaton didn't slow down.
Option toss goes to Slaton. Slaton over the 35 to the 30, cuts inside the 30, keeps his feet and lunges to the 24-yard line.
He was bouncing off tackles and making people miss. He scored 2 more touchdowns in the quarter. His second tied the game with about a minute left.
Slaton is going to be hit. He lunges ahead. He's in. Touchdown, West Virginia, with exactly 1 minute to go.
It was off to overtime. First points in the extra frame were courtesy of Slaton.
Hand off Slaton. He's in. Goal line. Touchdown, West Virginia. Slaton scores.
Louisville matched it, then scored again in the second overtime. Slaton answered.
Toss play goes to Steve Slaton. Slaton to the 20, takes it to the outside 15, 10 down the sideline, 5, lunges for the end zone. He is in. Touchdown, Steve Slaton. He did it again.
Off to a third overtime. Slaton finds the end zone yet again.
Right side, Slaton heading in. He is into the end zone. Touchdown, West Virginia. Steve Slaton has scored 6 touchdowns.
West Virginia added the 2-point convert. Louisville got their touchdown, but they couldn't match the convert.
Pressure collapses, he's running, and he will be stopped short. They've tackled him. The ball game is over. The West Virginia University Mountaineers have rallied to defeat the Louisville Cardinals in one of the greatest games in West Virginia football history.
The comeback was complete. The upset was in full effect, and it was all thanks to number 10. Steve Slaton had arrived. And with all the hoopla surrounding Slaton's performance, another storyline had been largely overlooked. Starting QB Adam Bednarik had gone down in the 4th quarter, so true freshman Pat White came in on fill-in duty. Turns out he had jets too.
So White makes it up on his own. Pat White inside the 20, inside the 10, to the end zone.
Carried by their freshman duo, the West Virginia offense became lethal overnight.
Hey, watch for Slaton and watch for White. Those two guys, those two freshmen, are dynamite.
Slaton was one of the most dangerous backs in the nation, a threat to score anytime he touched the ball.
Now White hands it to Slaton, who's in again for a touchdown. Slaton scores for the 3rd time tonight.
And while he was a speed back, he was patient too.
Good eyesight by Slaton, and the patience was good as well. So he let the block form and then exploded, and he was gone.
It seemed like every week Slaton was getting better. That's all he cared about. On the field, in the weight room, he was never there to mess around. Before the Louisville game, the Mountaineers were averaging about 24 points. The rest of the way, they averaged over 40. Led by 2 true freshmen, the future was bright in Morgantown. They finished the year with 1 loss and got a bid to the Sugar Bowl.
From the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, it's the transplanted Nokia Sugar Bowl. The 72nd edition moved to Atlanta because of the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. It's a draw play to Slaton. Big opening off the left side. He's in the open field. He's got great speed. Slaton inside the 20. He's gone. Touchdown, West Virginia. And Slaton off to the races. Touchdown. That trophy might be going to West Virginia. Slaton's second 52-yard touchdown run.
Slaton was unstoppable. 3 touchdowns and a season-high 204 yards rushing, which also happened to be a Sugar Bowl record. Yet even with that dominant performance, Georgia was set to get one last chance with under 2 minutes left.
And now they're going to fake it. Brady, the punter's got a first down. And that might just sew up the Nokia Sugar Bowl for the Mountaineers.
An all-time gutsy call, but one that paid off. West Virginia kept possession and kept their lead. The Sugar Bowl was theirs, wrapping up one of the best seasons in program history, and an incredible freshman campaign from Steve Slaton, one which had seen him rush for 1,128 yards and 17 touchdowns, while adding 12 catches for 95 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Steve Slaton had deservingly been named both the Big East Freshman of the Year and a Freshman All-American. The mild-mannered back had been propelled into stardom, whether he liked it or not. And going into his sophomore season, the expectations were much higher.
West Virginia running back Steve Slaton is next on our list of Heisman hopefuls.
A virtually unchanged West Virginia offense had them ranked top 5 in the preseason polls. And Slaton knew how important it was to get off to a strong start.
Is there one game that you have circled more than the others on the schedule? Which game would that be?
First game of the season. I mean, it breaks off, it makes or break the season.
High snap, Slaton, 10-5, nice knowing you. Touchdown, Mountaineers.
Talk about a strong start. Slaton kicked off his Heisman campaign with over 200 yards rushing in a win over Marshall. Then after an easy win over Eastern Washington, the Maryland Terrapins came to town. A big game versus their border rival. Yet for Steve Slaton, it was deeper than that.
That's right, Chris. You know, before they became Mountaineers, Starbacks, Owen Schmidt and Steve Slaton, they had dreams and visions of playing for Maryland. Now, Schmidt, he wasn't even offered a scholarship. Steve Slaton, on the other hand, he was. But the Terps, they took it off the table because they thought they signed too many backs.
They, I guess, took his scholarship away. He was wanting to go there, and they ain't want him. I guess he had something to prove.
I really don't hold too much of a grudge against him. Maybe a little bit.
Slaton makes a man miss, heads down the sidelines, shows the speed, and scores! Slaton again, and Slaton off and running again. Gets a block, gets the corner. Right back at it is Slaton. Trying to turn the corner, he does. Slaton to the end zone.
Well, Slaton sure ran like he held a grudge.
It's obvious inside. He's been burning for this chance.
He's got 149 yards. We're not even through the first quarter and a couple scores. And
he averaged nearly 20 yards a carry in the first quarter. And with the Mountaineers already up 28, he wasn't really needed the rest of the game. East Carolina somewhat held him in check the next week, but in the 3 games following, he rushed for nearly 500 yards. Then came the rematch with Louisville.
This time, handoff right at the middle. Steve Slaton headed for the end zone. Touchdown. You don't beat him in a foot race. 42 yards, and the Mountaineers take the lead.
It looked like it was going to be another masterclass from Slaton. Then early in the second half, he coughed it up.
The ball's loose. Louisville has the football. Another flag flies.
A Louisville fumble gave it right back to West Virginia, and they went right back to Slaton.
And now loses the football. It's scooped up. Touchdown, Louisville. Malik Jackson.
2 fumbles in less than 2 minutes. The second much more costly. Louisville scored again soon after, and an injury kept Slaton on the sideline for most of what was left. When the clock hit 0, an undefeated Mountaineers team lost their 0.
Mountaineer fan doesn't want to leave. Their dreams of playing in the national championship game dying on a very chilly night here in Louisville.
The fumbles were all you heard about. Probably no national championship for the Mountaineers, and a big blemish on Slaton's Heisman hopes. But he still rushed for over 150 yards, the most important piece of a rushing attack that averaged over 300 yards per game.
But nobody's really made this offense throw the ball that much.
Every defensive coordinator comes into the game saying we have to stop Steve Slaton and Pat White from running the football.
And while Slaton and White got the glory, you're only as good as your blockers. And West Virginia had some damn good blockers. Their O-line was one of the best in the nation, clearing massive holes for their duo. And a lot of times the first one through that hole was a runaway beer truck, aka Owen Schmidt. So running the ball was as easy as it could be. But as a running back, it's about what you do after you hit the hole.
Slaton, nice dip in, turns the corner, he had nothing, he made something out of it. Big game by Steve Slaton.
He slides and he glides and then he stops and then can accelerate again and get by you.
Taking a page out of Mr. Sanders' book, as in Barry Sanders.
Slaton could cut on a dime, reverse fields in an instant, and then just outrun your whole defense.
Slaton, sideline, maybe one man, not gonna get him. Touchdown, West Virginia.
Everyone knew West Virginia was going to run, but with Pat White and Steve Slaton, it was pick your poison.
And it's just been so easy for this Mountaineer offense today. If it's not Slaton, it's Patrick White.
I said, Coach, the difference in the first half, in your opinion, was what? And he said, you know what? Dadgum, Slaton and White.
Even when they did pass, it was just more speed, with guys like Darius Raynaud and Brandon Miles. The West Virginia Mountaineers were a powerhouse, and an unexpected one at that, with an outcast roster that was a lot more blue-collar than it was blue-chip. The Louisville loss was a backbreaker, but the Mountaineers didn't dwell on it. They took on Cincinnati the next week, and Slaton was hurting.
He told me before the game the left arm's fine. It's the right wrist that continues to be the problem for Steve Slaton. He told me he can only bend it about 20 or 30 degrees.
Fortunately, the injury didn't affect his legs.
This is what Steve Slaton can do. Slaton, touchdown.
After that win, it was time for the backyard brawl. Steve Slaton was one of the best running backs in the nation, but in the first half against Pittsburgh, he looked more like a receiver.
White throw, there's a man wide open. It's Slaton. He doesn't lose foot races.
After 2 quarters, he was up to 130 yards receiving. Then in the second half, he got back to what he did best.
But Slaton looking to improve the field position in a hurry. Look out, Steve Slaton.
The Mountaineers pulled away. In the fourth quarter, Slaton iced it.
This time it's Slaton. Bye-bye.
The first 100-yard rusher and receiver in Mountaineers history. But he had a little bit more than 100 yards rushing. He finished with a career-high 215. In total, 345 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns. Maybe their national championship hopes were still alive. But a loss to an unranked South Florida team a week later buried them for good. They ended the year against Rutgers. Slaton again rushed for 100+, and West Virginia pulled it out in triple overtime. It was their 10th win of the year, the first time the program had ever turned in back-to-back 10-win seasons. Slaton was the nation's second leading rusher, named first-team All-Conference, and a unanimous All-American. He wouldn't get the Heisman, but his 4th-place finish cemented him as one of the best players in college football. Now all that was left was the Gator Bowl.
West Virginia comes in with the second best running back running a tandem in all of college football, but a big question mark. Steve Slaton, injured thigh bruise. Can he go?
I had a chance to speak with head trainer Dave Kearns, and I asked him how effective he thought Steve Slaton would be, and he said, I'd be surprised if he made it through the whole game.
Slaton tried to push through it. In the first half, he struggled, and West Virginia was trailing at the break.
Can you tell us how Steve Slaton is holding up?
He's not going to be able to go. He tried, and he really battled through there, but it's just not going to loosen up, so we're not going to be able to go with him this half.
Yet somehow, even without their most dangerous player, Pat White and the Mountaineers pulled off the improbable comeback. 2 years, 2 bowl games, and 2 wins. Steve Slaton concluded his legendary season with 1,744 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns on 7 yards per carry. And through the air, he added 360 yards and 2 touchdowns on 27 receptions. 2 years in, and Steve Slaton was already Morgantown royalty. He was one of the best producers in the nation and had spent most of the second half of the season banged up. Actually, it was a lot longer than that.
He played all of last year with a broken right wrist. Thinks he broke it originally in his freshman year against Connecticut. Finally had surgery in the offseason, has a pin in there.
So Slaton had been playing with a bum wrist for most of his college career, and it could never heal, because every time it was hit or it was bent the wrong way, it felt like it was being broken all over again. The offseason surgery was expected to remedy that, and he was again a Heisman favorite going into 2007. It wasn't all about Slaton. The Mountaineers were among the best, and if it was ever going to happen, this would be their national championship year. They began the season as expected. The defense was stingy, the offense was lighting up the scoreboard, and Steve Slaton was hitting the century mark every game. Everything was going to plan as the Mountaineers started 4-0. West Virginia was stunned. USF shut down their dynamic duo, and their hopes of an undefeated season were over before October. The Mountaineers got right back on the winning track. Against Mississippi State, Slaton became the program's all-time leader in touchdowns.
Steve Slaton's at the 20, 15, cuts to the outside. He's going to score 6. And folks, that's the all-time touchdown record at West Virginia.
But as the season progressed, his stat lines weren't as gaudy, and overall it just wasn't the same dominance as his first 2 years. And you barely saw him down the stretch. Slaton's fourth quarter carries were dwindling, but according to coach Rich Rodriguez, it was just strategy. And it was hard to argue with success, because West Virginia was still a juggernaut on the ground, except Pat White had pretty much become the primary rusher. The read option in the spread offense was unstoppable, and with a QB as mobile as White, he was keeping it a lot. But as the name says, he was also reading the defense. Every defense was selling out to stop Slaton, so White had to keep it. Not to mention Slaton had to split carries in the backfield now, with West Virginia welcoming another speedster in freshman Noel Devine. Darius Raynaud had a career year through the air. There were just more mouths to feed. But every time Slaton touched the ball, you still knew what he was capable of. He put everyone on the edge of their seats, which is exactly what he wanted, and it's what he had been doing for the past 3 years. Yet while Slaton was still dangerous, he finished with his lowest rushing total in those 3 years. He didn't crack 1,000 yards until the second last game of the season, but that's not what Slaton wanted. Who cares about stats if you got wins? West Virginia had 10 of them. They were ranked number 2 in the nation, so going into the season finale, they were playing for the highest stakes.
West Virginia would rather beat Pitt than anybody, and especially tonight, because if they win tonight, they get a shot at a national championship game.
Pittsburgh only had 4 wins. No one was giving them a chance. But then things started crumbling for West Virginia. They should have been up 6-0 after the first quarter, but kicker Pat McAfee missed on 2 gimmies. Then in the second, Pat White went down. For the next 2 quarters, Pitt stifled the Mountaineers' hobbled offense. In an inexplicable twist, Slaton was barely used and got nothing going when he was. Pitt got out in front. Pat White came back for one last shot at the win, but the Panthers stood strong.
Mountaineers have to reach the 11 for a first down. White throws it up. Incomplete pass. And the Mountaineers go out on 4th down.
The 100th backyard brawl was an upset for the ages.
The Pitt Panthers have pulled a stunning upset over the West Virginia Mountaineers and denied them a place in a national championship game.
West Virginia lost their chance to play for a national championship. And they lost their coach too. After the game, Rodriguez left for a job at Michigan, so leading the Mountaineers into the Fiesta Bowl would be assistant Bill Stewart. Slaton was ready to end his season off with a bang. He didn't even make it through the first quarter. A hamstring injury ended his night. The second year in a row he was knocked out of the bowl game, and also the second year in a row that West Virginia found a way without Slaton. It was complete domination, and the Mountaineers added another bowl to the collection, and Slaton finished his junior season with 1,050 yards on the ground along with 17 touchdowns, while also hauling in 26 passes for 350 yards and 1 more touchdown. It wasn't a bad season by any means, but it was such a step back from his sophomore year. Still, Slaton had his eyes set on the NFL. He had called the league shortly after the season. He was assessed as a second-round talent, and that was enough for him. So just weeks after the Fiesta Bowl, Slaton declared for the NFL draft. One of the best offensive players in college football fell to the 3rd round. But why? Well, there were the obvious reasons. He was coming off a down year and had ended both his sophomore and junior seasons injured on the sideline, not to mention the surgically repaired wrist. He was also a relatively small speed guy, and due to the system he played in, most GMs didn't think he had workhorse in his future, so he was looked at as more of a 3rd down back, a change of pace guy, and even that was a question mark. How would he be as a receiver out of the backfield? It wasn't that there was a reason to believe he wouldn't be able to, it was just that there wasn't a lot to evaluate. In West Virginia's spread offense, he never really had to show anything outside of his running, but his running had gotten him pretty far. The Texans' backfield was supposed to be deep. Amon Green was penciled in as starter, but he got injured in the preseason. Backup Chris Brown went on IR with a back injury. So just like in college, Slaton had to step up. Okay, so week 1 wasn't great, but that's the 08 Steelers defense. It's understandable. Week 2 was much better. 116 yards and a touchdown. Steve Slaton was officially RB1. Yet there were ups, downs, and growing pains over the first half of the year. Rock bottom may have been a 7-yard performance against the Ravens. But hey, that means there's nowhere to go but up.
Slaton with a gaping hole. He's into the secondary, and there he goes.
Over his final 7 games, Slaton rushed for over 700 yards. Even against NFL competition, he showed that extra gear.
Trying to turn the corner. He does, and here he comes. 35, 40, down the sideline, pulled down at about the 40-yard line.
Maybe not quite a workhorse, but way more than Houston was expecting to get.
Every one of the Texans kind of pleased about what Steve Slaton has brought to the table because Gary Kubiak said, we thought we were drafting a 3rd down back.
Injuries left the Texans shaky at QB. but they had one of the league's premier receivers in Andre Johnson. Slaton had the luxury of running behind Vontae Leach.
There comes big number 44 with a pile-driving block on Marlon Jackson.
And once the rookie got into his rhythm, a team that looked down and out became one of the best stories in the NFL.
Steve, all of a sudden, one of the most exciting teams in the National Football League is the Houston Texans.
They're trying to make some history, trying to become the third team in NFL history to start 4-7 and make the playoffs.
In Week 11, Slaton set the Texans' single-game rookie rushing record.
The handoff, Slaton picks up the first down. Slaton, stiff arm, down the sideline, foot race, the rookie heading into the end zone, touchdown, Houston.
2 weeks later was his first Monday night game.
Slaton going to give this home team a win. Back-to-back carries, back-to-back touchdowns.
He finished with 182 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns.
A lot of people wondered, out of that spread offense that you see so much in college, how would the skill set translate over to the NFL? Pretty good for that guy.
Steve Slaton rushed for nearly 1,300 yards on the season, the most among rookies, second most in the AFC, and a franchise record, a driving force behind the Texans' playoff push. Houston won 5 of their last 6, but that one loss to a lowly Raiders team was a dagger, and an 8-8 finish wouldn't be enough for a playoff berth. But it looked like they had found their back of the future. Slaton wrapped an all-rookie season with 1,282 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. And even through the air, he added 50 receptions for another 377 yards and a touchdown. If you were a Texans fan, you were excited for the future. Andre Johnson was an all-world receiver. Matt Schaub had potential at quarterback. You just needed him to stay healthy. And now you have a rising star in your backfield. The defense was coming together too. Mario Williams, D'Amico Ryans, and rookie linebacker Brian Cushing. The Texans had been right on the cusp. This was their year to make their first playoff appearance.
Slaton, spin move, and he's got an opening. Cuts back middle, inside the 20, ball out, right into the hands of DeVito of the Jets.
Week 1 was an embarrassing loss to the Jets. Slaton had 17 yards rushing and a fumble. The next week was Tennessee.
86 yards per game. Slaton fumbles.
34 yards and 2 more fumbles.
The handoff, Slaton on third, lost it. Who's got it?
Over the next 6 weeks, Slaton coughed up the ball 4 more times. Now this had been an issue since college. He had trouble with fumbles. But when the Mountaineers were burning out scoreboards every Saturday, the fumbles weren't too detrimental. Even when he was drafted, one of the first things Houston focused on was his ball security. And while he had a few fumbles as a rookie starter, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. This year, he'd only have flashes of his rookie form.
Slaton running, Slaton, touchdown, Houston.
And overall, his production had plummeted. His yards per carry dropped below 3.5, and the fumbles had taken a toll.
He's had fumble issues. He's fumbled the ball 7 times. He's lost 5 of them, and quite frankly, the coaching staff did lose confidence in Steve Slaton. The word is out. It has been disseminated throughout the NFL. Rip the ball away from Slaton.
But if Slaton could break out of his slump, he could be the make or break of a playoff push.
And again, I just think back to Gary Kubiak saying, if we're going to make a run and we're going to be good on offense, we have to have Steve Slaton involved.
Days after one of his best games of the year, Slaton was shut down, eventually placed on IR, a frustrating end to a disappointing season. But maybe an explanation. Nerve issues had been causing him numbness throughout his right arm. He was taking a lot more hits in the NFL, and if you can't feel your arm, it makes it pretty hard to hold on to the ball. Even back in college, he had described some of his fumbles as feeling like he got hit in the funny bone, so this might be a lot more than just low confidence. Slaton made 12 appearances in 2009, and in that time he rushed for just 437 yards and 3 touchdowns. Through the air he was solid, with another 417 yards and 4 touchdowns on 44 catches. So Slaton and the Texans may have found the problem. They hoped surgery would be the solution. Slaton underwent a cervical fusion. He was healed and ready to go for the following season, but it looked like his opportunity had already passed. Slaton kept fumbling during the preseason. By opening day, he had been supplanted. Second-year back Arian Foster took the starting job and ran away with it. Slaton wasn't even the primary backup, and by week 12, he wasn't even getting touches. His coach no longer had faith in him, and pretty much the only time you saw Slaton on the field was during kick returns. It was Slaton's worst season as a pro, and Houston's worst season since drafting him. Their defense was near the bottom of the league, and they finished with just 6 wins. As Slaton ended year 3 with 19 total carries for 93 yards, along with another 3 receptions for 11 yards. At this point, Steve Slaton was a member of the Texans, but that's about it. He remained a member of the team until late September. After being waived by Houston, he was picked up by Miami the following day. He appeared in 3 of their final 13 games. He even scored a touchdown.
Slaton, touchdown Miami.
But for the most part, he spent his time on the inactive list. Another year where Slaton barely felt the grass. He rushed for 84 yards and 1 touchdown while hauling in 3 passes for 3 yards. The Dolphins would end up re-signing Slaton, but just days before the start of the 2012 season, he was waived, and this time he wasn't picked up. It looked like it might be the end of the line for the 26-year-old back. As far as his NFL career would go, those few games with the Dolphins would be his last. But after a couple years off from football, Slaton resurfaced north of the border, signing on with the CFL's Toronto Argonauts. The Argos were a contender, just 2 years removed from a Grey Cup victory. They hoped bringing in a guy like Slaton would give them some more versatility in their backfield. And even with 2 years away from football, he looked pretty good.
Slaton should score. He does.
He was their second leading rusher and finished second in receptions, while appearing in just 12 of 18 games. But it was a letdown. Toronto missed the playoffs, and Slaton ended his first CFL season with 510 rush yards and a touchdown, along with 46 receptions for 388 yards and 4 more touchdowns. Even with his time away from football, Slaton had still missed a few games because of stingers in his year with the Argos. It would be his last year as a professional, as Slaton quietly walked away from the game after the season. It just didn't work out for Steve Slaton. It's not like he was short of talent, but in the NFL, opportunity comes and goes in an instant. And if you're a running back who's not taking care of the ball, you won't see many opportunities. But his nerve issues need to be at the forefront. He always tried to play through them and never use it as an excuse, but it's still an explanation. If he doesn't lose feeling in his arm, he probably doesn't lose the ball. And maybe we get to see a long and successful pro career from Steve Slaton. And maybe he shouldn't have played through injury for so long in college. But he said it himself. It was about putting on a show. Everyone came to the stadium to see number 10 in the old gold and blue. He couldn't let them down. One of the greatest Mountaineers of all time, and one of the most dynamic players college football has ever seen. If you needed to change the game in an instant, just give it to Super Steve Slaton. And once again, before we end it off, I just want to take a second to shout out channel members. Really appreciate the support in helping making these videos possible. But that's it for today's episode on Steve Slaton. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. If you liked it, check out this one on another superstar college running back. Or this one, on another back whose greatest weapon was speed. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.